Good morning. Happy Monday. Um, so we're going to talk about JavaScript this morning. We're going back to the gallery, but we're going to fancy it up a little bit. And I'm working on, so someone requested a while back a way to do a filterable gallery, like with categories. So that if you had multiple images that, some are like in this example, some are I think I did objects, remote work, landscapes, and you wanted, these buttons to appear across the top. And if you select one of the buttons, it will filter out the images with that category to only show those and hide all of the others. So I'm sure there are plugins to do this. I know Elementor has a built-in widget, whatever they call it, that will do this. And man, I've been thinking on that and racking my brain. And I thought, you know what? Regardless of what we do, we're going to have to write JavaScript. There's nothing. I mean, you might be able to get clever with like the tabs or something in GenerateBlocks, or maybe the accordions. No, probably the tabs. Probably the tabs. You could imitate it, but this will work hopefully off of some custom fields or something to make things a bit easier. So what's going to happen is by default, like you see it right here, and this is CodePen, by the way. CodePen is amazing. It's a great place to kind of like a scratch pad to you can do JavaScript, HTML, CSS. You can really play around with it and see what works, see what doesn't work. I love it. I have a pro account so I can hide stuff and work on client stuff as well. But anyway, I made this public to share, and I'll probably keep this as a snippet. I know I will keep this as a snippet to use on my own site whenever this kind of thing is called for. But as you can see right here, just out of the box, it's just a straight grid of images. And I do have, here's the HTML for it. It's just a section with an unordered list and some images within each list item. And I've broken out in my markup here the categories. And you can see I've done it with a data attribute. So the category here is remote work. This one has two categories, remote work and objects. And this little character is called a delimiter. So it's the separator character to signify, here's where the first one breaks and it goes to the second category. So it's just it's a separator. It's a separator. I've done multiples here. Here's landscapes. Here's another one with multiples. I just wanted to see kind of set up these parameters with a nice clean gallery. And I think I can imitate this in GenerateBlocks and see if I could write out the JavaScript. So I did that. The JavaScript is not activated right now. Again, just a grid of images. Let's open up the JavaScript tab and uncomment this function and save it. And now we get some buttons across the top. And I can click these buttons and it will filter them. And you can't see it, but I'm doing touch and it works as well. And it automatically creates all these and it automatically generates an all button so you can return to show everything. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go down the list of what this function does. And I want to share this code. Anybody can use it. Please do. Can't promise it'll work for everybody. There's no guarantees or anything, but I will be using this for my own stuff and coming back and making changes to it as I see fit to fix any hiccups I might come across or things I didn't think of or just improvements to make it better. So anyway, it is just a JavaScript function, and I like to do things that way so that I can, if I want to turn it off or disable it, I just have a place where I've called the function and I can comment it out and turn it off or remove the comment and turn it back on. And I did set it up so that we can do options. So what this means is if I want to set up my own class for the gallery, which it actually defaults to AHD, that's my initials from Addison Design, I like prefixing things like this just to keep it as best I can from conflicting with any other plugins or whatever else may be going on in WordPress. So if I were to do this, I would pass these options by doing that. And all this is, it's an object. It's a JavaScript object so that I can include multiple things. And for instance, I can customize the delimiter. I can make it a comma if I want to. By coming in and saying category delimiter, comma, yep. So now it's a comma. And actually, the last item in an object, you don't have to have a comma, but you can. So, yeah. So anyway, and now let's see. Yeah, it's not going to work because look at there. It's looking for commas. So it's acting wonky. Oh, it treated that whole thing as a single. Well, let's, yeah, let's see. So for example, and this is the stuff I do that just makes my videos longer, and I really need to stop. So if I save it now we're back to the way it worked before. So you know what? We'll leave it that way for right now. That's cool. But actually don't need that because that's the default. And I need to actually put that in by default. That would make my comments better. So class equals boom. And items class equals this class. Ugh. There we go. Okay, now we'll move on. Okay, so here's the function that we've just called. Okay, and here is where the options are set. So all it's doing here is saying if this option is set in the function, then use that value. If not, these double question marks are saying if there's no value in the options, then use this. So this is where the defaults are set. So the default is HD filter gallery. That is the, you know what, can I, yeah. So there is, you know, the outer section, the gallery items class is, there it is. So it's just the list items. And I did give it an ID. You don't have to though. Do we want to show all button? Yes, almost always by default. But if you don't, we just create an option for show all button and up here, and we set it to false. And if we want a default category, so like if I want landscapes to show first, this will be fun to try. So I think I have to do, okay. No, I'm not going to do it. Okay, then maybe I need to work on that. Sorry. Or actually, let me see something. Okay, the button is active, but it's not. Show hide content is not defined. Whoop. Oh, I do need to fix that. Okay, well, I'll have that fixed by the time we move on to WordPress. Sorry, that is my bad. Yep, that's a boo-boo. Because that used to be a function and now it's not anymore. So I need to change that back to a function. So anyway, never mind that. I will fix it. Let's keep going. The delimiter, yeah, so by default it is the pipe. We just changed it up here to a comma and it's working. So at least that option works. So let me put a little to work. That's all I'll put for now. Okay, so now we're going to move on past the options and we're going to say, you know what, let's gather up all of the galleries that are on this page. So the gallery class is set to AHD filter gallery. So it's going to look for every instance of this class and put it into this, I believe it's an object, but put it into this value, let's say. So this value is going to always hold all of the instances of the gallery in the page where this JavaScript's called. And right out of the gate, we're going to say, you know what? If there are no galleries, just bail out, just stop, because we don't want to take up the memory to do something if there's nothing there to do it with. Okay. Then we move on. If this does not return, so if there are galleries, we're going to say, okay, for every one of the galleries, let's loop through. And this function right here lets you say for each instance that we're looping through one of these gallery items, instances, we can refer to it within this for each loop as gallery. So first all I'm using this console log and just checking, and it is showing my error, but it's also showing the HTML output of all of this stuff because that's what it's grabbed. Okay, and then we're going to go through and we're going to say, okay, look within that gallery and select all of, we're running a query selector, the gallery items class. So now it's going to go through and look for every gallery item. So now it's going to go through and fetch this. Where were we? Here we are. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to do some stuff within this. Okay. So now we're going to set up this empty array for all of the categories. So it's going to hold everything. We're going to run through now all the gallery items for each one of them. And we're going to fetch the data set, this data attribute right here. It's going to look for this piece. And first of all, it's going to, okay, we've set up a new value, a new variable. Say, when we hit this item, give me the values of this data attribute. So for this instance, it's going to fetch remote work. Then we're going to set up another variable, this categories array, and it's going to split everything it finds with our category delimiter. So let's find one, this one, for example. Sorry, this one, for example. I'm drinking coffee and it's giving me reflux, I think. So it's going to split it by this and convert it into an array. So right now you call this a string, but when it's an array, it's going to actually be a value that has multiple values within it. And then we're referring to this again. We're going to say, okay, now take this all categories array, push in these new item categories, but this little thing does some magic. This is called a spread operator. Look it up. That's the best way I know to do it, because it's what it does is it takes each one of the items in this array and it will plop it into this array as an individual item. Otherwise, you'll have an array within an array, and we don't want that. So this piece is going to end up with all of the categories, and there may be multiple repeating ones, like it's going to fetch everything. So that's where this piece comes in. Pull out the duplicates and leave the final category. So we're going to use this set function. From what I understand, look it up as well, please. It will weed out all of the duplicates. And from what I understand, it actually creates an object from the array with all these values from this all categories array. But since we're doing new and we're spreading them out, we're going to be left with these brackets around it. Tell it, make it into an array. So set is going to weed out all the duplicates, but we're going to be left with, because of these brackets, an array in this variable unique categories array. Okay, hang in there. We're going to get there. Now we need our buttons, because we have our categories. So now we need buttons. So we're going to create a button wrapper, an unordered list, and this is document, create element. Okay, cool. Okay, buttons wrapper, which is this variable. It's holding this piece of HTML. We're going to say, okay, within that, I'm sorry, for that item, let's look at the class list of that item and let's add this class. So AHD category filters. Actually, we could set an option for that too, but we're not right now. So you could name that whatever class name you wanted. And then we're going to build out our filter buttons from this array. Okay, so now we have this button wrapper. We have this filled with all the values, all the categories that are spread out amongst all these images. So now we're going to loop through those categories after we check, okay, make sure that it has length. So does this array variable or variable array, does it actually have things within it, or is it empty? So we use this dot length property to check and see that if there are things in it, then let's do some stuff. So if this is true, if there are things in the array, let's take the array for each. We're going to reference each item in the array as item, and let's build some buttons. So this is what goes through and it builds each one, or actually it builds these three. The all button is going to be next. So all we're doing is we're creating a list element, and then we're creating the button element. We're taking the button element and we're adding a class of category button. We're setting an attribute of type button. We are going to add a data attribute called category that matches the values of these. And we're filling it with item, which is, as I said, it's looping through remote work, through objects, through landscapes. So each time we go through, item first will be remote work, then it will be objects, then it will be landscapes, whatever. The sort order is something else I might need to work out because right now I'm not sure how it's being ordered. But anyway, so again, we're grabbing each one of these and we're going to make let me show you. Maybe that's easier. Yeah, button, class, category button, and that one just happens to be active. Oh, because and it is a type. There you go, type button. Data category is landscape. The text content means what is within this piece right here. The button label, I guess you'd say, is also item. Okay, and then we're going to take the list element that we created and we're going to append it to, we're going to take the list element and append within it, the child of it, the button element. So now the button is going to be rendered within the list element. And then finally, we're going to take the button wrapper, which is this category filters, and we're going to prepend the button list element. So we're actually stacking them, we're building them. And you know what? If I did, instead of prepend, pinned child, I bet the order would be reversed. So we'll go from landscapes. Yep. So now it's going to start with remote work. So I'll leave it like that. That might be better because the first items are actually remote work. Yeah, nifty, huh? Okay. So it's going to stack them. It'll start with, it comes across this first. So we'll go ahead and add that. Then we'll add that. Then we'll add that instead of adding it to the beginning every time. And then finally, we have to look at the gallery instance, which is this. And we're going to say, okay, prepend mean look at all the stuff within it and add this before it. So it's going to look at all the junk, all the elements, the UL, and it's going to say, okay, look within this element and make this the first item, all the contents of this button's wrapper, where is it? Up here? Yep. There you go. That's it. So if you look at the markup that it's creating, so see there's section AHD filter gallery right here. And then this is the thing we just created, this AHD category filters. So that's all that stuff being generated right there. The next, we're creating that show all button. So if show all button is set, and that's all we have to do right here, We're going to also build, kind of do the same thing and build an all button. So it's following the same principles. And then right here is that default category, which we kind of borked, or I kind of borked. Yeah, all it's saying is if there is no default category, then go ahead and make the all button the first active item. So, but why is that active? See, I've still got to fix something. Or maybe I just needed a refresh. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to fix the weird things. But anyway, let's proceed. Let's keep going because for the most part, it works. Category, class, let's say. Yeah, so in short, this bit, let me close this. Yeah, so everything in the show all button works pretty much the same way this bit works, building our filter buttons. It has all these, creating elements and adding class items, setting attributes, things like that. Yep, pretty much the same thing. We're just generating this one all button so that it works. Okay, and then once we've created all that, we need to create a value that references the full list of buttons so that we can start listening for things and doing things with it. So activate. So we're basically doing a query selector, but we're using the gallery. Remember, this whole thing is looping through all of the galleries, and within the loop, each gallery item we're looping over is referenced simply as gallery. So where do we go? Yeah. So we're only looking within this gallery instance, and we're querying all of the category buttons. So they're not over here because we created them with JavaScript, but this is what they are. And so we're saying over here, activate the first category if there's no all button or default category. So we're doing, if there is no show all button, there is no, yeah, that's the one. I need to fix that to do. This function is no longer present. I need to do something about that. Let's save. So essentially what that's going to do is if there is no show all button and no default category was designated in our options, then it's just going to look to the first item in this list and make it active. Okay. If we did set a default category, this is the piece that handles that. And there's that function again that isn't present. That I need to fix. Okay. So that's going to work its magic, going for each and looking for the filter buttons and setting a default category, depending on what we've designated. Excuse me just a second. Sorry about that. I'm back. Nature called. Apologize. Let's see. Where were we? Default category. Okay. I felt like I was rushing through this a little bit. So if the default category is set and we want to control it, which that's the thing I tested earlier and it didn't work because this function is no longer present. I need to fix that. It's going to look through each of the filter buttons and we're going to reference it as filter button. And it's going to say if the category equals the default category, and the 3 equals means like, does it equal? And you know what? That probably will trigger a boo-boo as well for the data attributes with multiple categories. So I need to rethink that altogether. So I'm going to put a to-do there because it's directly referencing that data attribute. That's what data set is. And yeah, just so you know, like in look up JavaScript data set. I think it's a property. So the way it works is if you have a data or let's see, I'm going to do a comment here. So if I have an element, this is kind of an aside, image, data, and let's say I have image category, okay? To reference that in JavaScript, so let's say that filter button data set, you can't use dashes or anything. You would actually reference it like this with camel case, and it would still know what that is. So this is the HTML. This is how you reference it in JavaScript. So it's a little bit confusing, but that is how it works. So to do, need to account for data with multiple categories. I know this is probably boring as watching paint dry, and I'm sorry, but I feel like to truly do this, and at least if I were trying to get something out of it, I would want to know how the JavaScript worked. I wouldn't just want to copy paste it, but it can be overwhelming. And JavaScript's fun too, because you figure out how to make all this stuff work. And I love HTML and CSS, but when you're doing JavaScript or even PHP, it's like, yeah, now I'm making things happen. CSS is kind of the same way, because you can see the appearance change. And in fact, that's how I'm doing these fades when it's fading in and out. And that actually took some doing. I may go over that when we get to the WordPress part. Anyway, so default category needs some work. I got these to-dos to do. Finally, okay, here's where we make the magic happen. So the filter buttons, it's looking at this list of buttons that we generated. It's taking that and saying, okay, for each one, let's go through them again. And did I already do that? Filter buttons for each. See, I see things like that, and I'm like, I wonder, could I have combined these? But maybe not. I don't know. You always wonder if it can be more efficient. Anyway, we're going to loop through these filter buttons again. And for each one, we're going to reference each one that we hit as filter button. So now we're going to listen for clicks, or rather pointer up, which I found is an event that is triggered either via click or touch. And from what I understand, it is the one, it's kind of best practices now if you're trying to hit both. Like my laptop, for instance, has a touchscreen. So it is both pointer, well, it recognizes click events and touch events all at the same time. So that can be tricky. But from what I understand, the pointer up is the way to go in this instance. And I need to read more about that. I encourage you to as well. So add an event listener. So I was saying, okay, for each of these buttons, let's listen for when the pointer is up. So pointer down, I'm moving off of it up, so it's not going to activate. Pointer up, down, down. I'm sorry, down, up. So when that event happens, we're going to reference that event, and we're going to say, okay, let the active category equal the event target data set. So when that event happens, the target is the element that was clicked. So then look at that data set and look at the category and update. Okay, so that active category is storing what category was selected based on the button we clicked. Okay. So let me close that. And there's so many things I want to show. Like all this, I feel like seeing it would help. So again, as I click a button, so that this one is active, okay? So let active category equal. So if I clicked remote work, which I did, then take that element, look at the data set called category, and assign the value of that to this. So active category now equals remote work. All right. Now what we need to do is remove the active category, active class from all of the other items. So for each one of them, remove active for every one of the buttons. And then, so again, filter buttons for each button. Filter buttons for each. So I'm doing that twice. I guess that's how I have to do it. So anyway, yeah, we're looping through the filter buttons again, and they're not many. It moves. You can't even tell. So we're removing all the active classes, except when we get to the end. So there will be a moment, a split second, when there are no active categories assigned. And then right after it runs that loop, we're going to go back to that target that we just clicked and then add active to it. So that's how that's working. First, remove all of the active classes from every button, and then immediately add back the one active to the one we just clicked. And then we actually go through it. We show or hide the images from the gallery. So we're going to loop through gallery items, which is that. So this element, which contains all of the gallery items. I'm sorry. This is the gallery items. It's grabbing all of those list elements. Where did we reference that? Because this video needs to be longer. Gallery items. Where did we reference that? Right there. So within our gallery loop, we have an instance of gallery, and we're saying within this gallery, query selector all and grab all of the gallery items, which is each one of these list elements. Okay, so back down to the bottom. Yeah, okay. So for each gallery item, if active category is all, I don't tell you what, let's no, not CSS. Woo, that was bad. Okay, I was about to say, where did it go? Okay, so for each of the gallery items, let's see something here. Okay. Save. And let's look at the console. Okay, I'm going to refresh. You know what? Let's get rid of the other. Yeah, get rid of that. Clear that thing. Console log is a great way to debug or just see what's happening, see what the values of things actually are, because sometimes you don't know. I really hope this is helpful, and I hope that you're not finding this too terribly boring. Okay, so if I click something, there we go. Gallery items, object node list. That was not what I expected. So it's looking at those list items. So do I have... Yes, okay, it's applied to the list element. The image is just in there waiting. Okay. That's what I wanted to check. That way it was... Man, I tell you what, you do this stuff and you stare at it long enough and you think you'd be like crazy familiar with it, and then like you just abandon all hope. Like, what in the world did I do? What is this referring to? Okay, so I don't know why it's showing. I guess it's This is just its way of showing a list item without showing the contents of it. And that is okay because is that an array? It says it's an object. Okay, that's fine. We'll, you know what? Let's just comment that out. And let's close that up. So again, we're looping through all of these, all the contents of our gallery, but it's the list element, not the image, the list element, because that's where the data attributes live and the class names for hidden and active and all that kind of stuff. So what we're saying is if the active category is all, let's remove the hidden class. So that's if it's there or not. So when we're starting fresh, hidden may not even be present or fade in for that matter. But we're doing, so for example, if I click that and then click all, you see the ones that aren't present, they're going to have the hidden class removed and the fade in class added. And you'll see that in my CSS, which again, I'm not going to go over now, but feel free to look at it because this thing will work without animation effects or not. Okay, so that is handling the click of an all category. And then else if category split delimiter includes. Okay, so it's looking. It knows we had to make compensations for multiple categories assigned to one of these elements. So if it is both remote work and objects, we need to only look at the one that's applicable based on what we clicked. So we're going to split it and then see if it includes the active category that has been assigned. Which that active category, yeah, we assign that up here. And this is actually the piece that I need to make into a function. Like, I need to do that. I'll have to fix that. But because I need to call it from multiple places, not just within this loop. And that might be tricky, but we will see. Okay. Yeah, so we're checking for the active category to see if it applies to any of the images based on what we click, and it's making the stuff happen. So it's going to remove the hidden from whatever item we're looping through, whichever one we hit, and then it's going to add a class of fade in, which is what makes that nice little fade in effect, because that's taken care of in the CSS. Else, because we just need an else, if all else, none of the other stuff applies, then just add hidden and remove fade in. And all that's doing is accounting for everything else that isn't active or in all. If we've clicked all, we just need to hide it. And that is it. Boy, was that really, that was a lot. That was a lot of JavaScript. And gosh, that's talking for nearly 40 minutes about it. Wow. Yeah, I'm sure this will be my most popular video ever. I hope you like JavaScript. I hope you're interested in JavaScript. It is really cool, and you can really do some amazing stuff with it. And I'm excited about this because it'll be one of the most portable scripts I've ever written. And I like having these bits and pieces. I don't know whether that kind of ran together. I don't know whether or not I will also add this a gist or just leave it in CodePen because I like being able to see it work. But I do like the versioning that gets applied to gists in GitHub. So we'll see. I don't know, but I'll include a link to it regardless in the description. This is phase 1, stage 1, part 1, whatever you want to call it. Next video, we're going to take this and move it over to WordPress, and we're going to see it work with some kind of gallery, whether it's built by hand or whether or not we create some kind of dynamic custom fields feature that you can use this to build a filterable gallery without having to use a plugin. We'll see. We'll see. Hope you enjoyed this. Again, sorry it's so long. Sorry it's just JavaScript. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I really want to do more of these. I want to do them more frequently. But life, work, got to pay them bills. And hope everyone's well. Hope you have a good week. And I'll see you guys next time. I appreciate it.